Hey guys, and welcome back to Divine Journey 2. Last episode we upgraded our fusion crafting to Draconic tier. We also defeated the Chaos Guardian and wasted one Chaos Shard. Hopefully that mistake doesn't come back to bite us today. And we got the first of our alchemistry blocks, the Evaporator, along with the Quantum Compressor, and messed a little bit with Packaged Auto. And our goal for today is to become chemists and mess with alchemistry. I'm really looking forward to this chapter actually. But before we do anything else with alchemistry, it's time to give Applied Energistics some love. So in this chest is all the materials we need for our Mass Inscriber, which is something I've been talking about for quite a while actually. And it's about time we replace this slow mess of wiring. Goodbye old setup, you served us well. But it's time to go. Oh yeah, look at this thing. Awesome. So yeah, this Mass Inscriber will basically replace all the different inscribers that we had before. And this thing is capable of producing 8 processors. I think every recipe is 8. 8 processors per tick, which is amazing. And it only requires 20,000 RF a tick. So let's move this interface. I think we'll have to modify all of these patterns since they give more output. And we can hook this straight up to the item input. And we'll use integrated dynamics to take the outputs back into the interface and complete our craft. So we want to export all items, make sure we hook up some power to the energy input, and that is so much cleaner than what we had before. Now we just have to make sure we swap out all of the patterns. And I guess this time we will need the recipe for the printed silicon, which is also 1 tick, so it's not that bad. Alright, all the recipes have been encoded, let's see how fast this thing is. Let's maybe order like, I don't know, 7,000 logic processors. Oh, we're missing a couple of recipes. Oops. Let's do 10,000 logic processors. Let's see how fast this thing is. Oh, look at that thing. That's like 100 per second. Look at this thing. That's insane. And now that we've improved our crafting capabilities for our processors in 82, let's do something about the sorry state of our CPUs here. These things are nowhere near capable of crafting what we need for endgame. And since we have extra cells in the pack, why stop at 64k? We can go up to 256, which is basically free for us. This is just some mithril, which we have seeds for. And we can even go up to 1024, which is just thaumium. Again, we've got seeds for this. 4096 is also free, as this is elementium. However, the 16,384k is not quite so free. Yeah, this takes awakened draconium. But we can at least craft up some 4096ks, which do require mystic plates, and the previous tier requires Machina V crystals, and then runes of mana. So these might take a little bit to craft, but I think it's going to be a worthwhile investment for us. So I was planning on starting off with 12 of these crafting storages, which is a lot of crafting capability. 55,000 gold, 65,000 silicon, and we also don't buffer enough sand, which is a bit interesting, but oh wow, 300,000 iron ingots for this. And this tiny little enrichment chamber here to make our pure Certus crystals is not going to be sufficient for the large grass we need. So let's fully upgrade this into the elite factory. Alright, so we've ordered up a couple of crafting storages to slowly upgrade our CPUs. But in the meantime, let's look at our next steps for chapter 26. So we left off last episode looking at the alchemical machine frame. We have exactly one of these things, so I hope it's going to be enough for us to get some more Chaos Shards, which I believe is this quest up here. Let's claim our guidebook, I'm sure this will come in handy. And our first quest is to make the chemical dissolver, which does take blocks of evil infused iron. We have an enchanter set up for this, although it may become necessary to create another one. We'll see how often the evil infused comes up, but everything else here we've made before I believe, maybe except the conjuration catalyst, but these are easy to craft anyway. Oh, and of course we don't have a crafting CPU. That's hilarious. Okay. Alright, I shuffled some things around with the crafting CPUs, and we can create our chemical dissolver. And our trophy. Awesome. Well, this one looks different as well. I have to remember to get a trophy room at some point, but yeah, before the end of the series, I guess. Anyways, while I was waiting on some crafting, I did spruce up this alchemistry room a little bit more. And we now have a roof on this place, which I think looks pretty cool. I decided to keep the 2 separate levels. Again, I'm not sure if this is going to be enough space for us, but oh wow, this opens up a lot of different quests for us. Where do we even start with this thing? Well, I think our first mission actually is to try to get up to Chaos Shards, and we can actually do this with alchemistry. So I was looking at this a little bit earlier on, and through some mix of the Liquicrafter and some of these alchemistry ingredients, we can make tiny chaos fragments. which we can then craft into small and then large and then the regular Chaos Shards. So it looks like to get this, it's all 6 of these quests. Alright, so how does this dissolver work? It looks like we need to power this thing. Let's grab an entangloporter for this. Alright, let's just take this one at a time then. So first of all, we need to get mercury sulfide and mercury. And the quest recommends we break down supremium for this. Okay, we got 5 of these things crafted. Is this? Oh, this is instant. Oh, and this gives us a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, and with this we can put it through again for mercury and sulfur. Oh man, we're going to end up with a lot of these things. We should probably find out some way to store these. So I guess we have a couple of options actually for storage. We could continue using drawers, or we could use some ME drives and set up a little subnet over there for storage. I think I like that idea a bit more. It's a little bit more compact. Alright, so I've set us up a very basic subnet to work with. Went with purple this time, because why not? But this is also connected to our main network here through the use of an ME interface, with a storage bus set to extract only. And we're powering the subnet through our main net here through the use of this quartz fiber. I mean, I guess we're technically doing it there as well. We don't really need this one. Then to insert items into the subnet, we just have an item conduit coming out of the dissolver and straight into this interface, which will store the items in these 4 64K ME storage cells. So yeah, we melted down some supremium and we got all 4 of these different chemicals, which we can also view in our main net and also interact with these items. Although if we were to put this back in, since the storage bus there is set to extract only, it's going to actually take it out permanently from this one. So to get regular mercury, we have to throw our sulfide through again. This gives us sulfur and also mercury. There's our quest. Okay, the next one I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but for this we have to melt some void metal, which is very easy since we have void metal seeds. And this will give us this compound. Lots of quests here. Next one is titanium oxide, which is compressed titanium or titanium boxes. Let's do the titanium boxes. Next one is lead iodide and also iodine, which we can get from, looks like evil infused iron. So yeah, this was the material that we looked at earlier on. So it looks like that gave us iron oxide, which we have to melt again. Oh, this is actually a chance output. And we got some of this lead iodide, which we can then melt into the iodine, yeah. Alright, and the last 2 for chaos here is copper chloride, which comes from crystalline or crystalline alloy. And the very last one here before we unlock this quest is to melt some beam cores, which aren't exactly the cheapest things to make. So let's start with a small amount here. Oh man, there's already so many compounds. I forgot which one it was for the quest. Is it polyvinyl chloride? Yeah, there we go. So yeah, this explains how we create our chaos. And to fully get this up and running, we're going to need another 3 Liquicrafters for this. So it would technically be possible to piggyback off this thing, but let's just build another 3. Alright, so after many hours of crafting, we have 3 more Liquicrafters here. And these are located just below, actually, our alchemistry setup here. So this is the other entrance. I decided to put a little elevator over there. And then this leads downstairs and through another corridor. And just down to our Liquicrafters here. I'm not sure if I placed these backwards, as in, like, maybe we should have had the front facing this way, but I mean, I guess there's an elevator here as well. Alright, so let me explain how this is all going to work. I started hooking up the inputs and outputs for this as well. But basically the first one here is going to be for this recipe here. It takes some iodine, copper chloride and mercury and gives us a copper byproduct, which we're probably just going to trash. But what we're interested out of this is impure mercury iodine mixture, which then goes into our second liquid crafter over here. And I haven't tested this yet, but these two fluid outputs should take the mercury and the impure mercury. The regular mercury gets buffered in this tank, and the impure gets sent to this left-hand tank here, which is connected via fluid laser to the input of the second liquid crafter. And the second liquid crafter is going to take the impure mercury, plus some nickel chloride, and this is going to give us liquid iodine. But the iodine comes out of these, well, I'm not sure which one it's going to come out of, so I've just hooked up conduit to both. Buffered in a tank again, and sent via fluid laser to the third liquid crafter. And this one is going to take only 10 millibuckets actually of this liquid iodine, plus titanium oxide, and the one I can't pronounce. And this is going to give us tiny chaos fragments. So the fluids will effectively just create themselves. We do have to supply inputs for this though, so which is why I've hooked up an Applied Energistics interface, put in a pattern for tiny chaos. And for now I have included the mercury inside the pattern, since we can't re-solidify this mercury output. So for now we have to input it every time we want to craft with this thing. But this recipe is basically just a combination of all 3 of the Liquicrafter recipes, which is all 6 of these input items. Those go into this item interface, which is then sent via item lasers. Alright, let's test this thing out. Let's hope this works. We have all the inputs. So long as these Liquicrafters start crafting. Okay. Okay, regular mercury got filtered to the correct tank. Is the second one going? Okay, I didn't check the ratios on this thing, yeah. This recipe requires 500 millibuckets, whereas we only gave this 144. Yeah, the ratios don't really line up for this. Multiples of 500 aren't really divisible by 144 very easily. Let's just load this first one up manually, and we'll create a big batch of the second fluid that we need. Aha, now we're going. Okay, the second Liquicrafter is doing its thing. But is the third one going? Missing input item. Oh, we crafted already. Oh, that was quick. Oh, nice. We got our tiny chaos fragments. Oh, but the quest wants liquid iodine as well. Okay, well, it's time to melt some more materials. So it was more mercury, and I already forgot the last ones. Copper chloride? Yeah. Alright, couple more recipes, and we have our quest. So yeah, right now in here we have 1400 buckets of liquid iodine. And each recipe of this tiny chaos fragment only takes 10 millibuckets, so this is this is already a lot of chaos. I mean, we do still have to supply these 2 input items, but these are basically free for us. The titanium isn't quite so free since we have to use boxes or plating, which does take galactic ingots, but I mean, even still. And I think for now we'll also just modify this recipe that we had to take out the iodine, the mercury, and the copper chloride. And we'll figure out what we want to do with this first Liquicrafter recipe later on, I think. Oh, and I also did filter a trash can here for the outputs of the thermal dust that we were getting from this. So yeah, that completes our first major goal of alchemistry. Okay, so where do we want to go next here then? Alright, so our next goal I think is to get the chemical combiner. So to get this, there is 3 different quests gating us here. We first have to melt down some crystallized mana. We're after this ammonium. Then we have to scrap some of our luminescence. Luckily we do have a full drawer of this stuff. And we're after this urea, which we then have to melt again into amide. And some refined corallium. And hybrid abyssalium. And we'll also throw away some of our meteoric iron. Yeah, if you're a little bit confused by this, don't worry, I'm a little bit confused by this as well. We're going to find out how all of this comes together soon though. So we're also missing this quest here, which is to melt nether stars. Luckily the quest book does tell you what to melt here, which is nice, otherwise digging through JEI would be very, very time consuming. You know what, let's just do a stack of these things. Pick it all up for the quest. Oh, and it looks like to progress actually, we've got another multi-block here. The chemical caster, okay. So this thing, I think, lets us create the unique alchemistry ingots. Yeah, all of these things I've never seen before, or most of them anyway. Oh, and this also requires another 2 chemical dissolvers, which means another 2 alchemical machine frames. Okay, things are getting expensive. Okay, we first of all need some more singularities. We have these on request though. These are easy to make now that we have this set up. Should put it all inside our quantum compressor. Oh, and the blueprint for this actually requires 6 large chaos fragments. Alright, well it's time to put our multi-blocks to use. So to get enough chaos shards for our multi-block, or at least for the pattern here, we need another 416 nickel chloride, which comes from beam cores. And we only get 16 of this with a 50% output chance. That is a lot of beam cores to be using. Let's order like another 32 of these things. Yeah, and immediately recycle it all. Okay, so we also need 2 more crystal cores, which means some more rock crystals. But apart from that, I think we've got everything else. Maybe except this ludicrous... Oh, this is... yeah. This is some more chaotic energy cores. Well, we can't easily grab the casting table. We had a spare awakened draconium block, which we need. A machine controller. Reinforced item input and output. Casting basin. I'm really curious to see what this looks like, actually. I haven't seen the preview yet. A resistive heater. Apparently we also need 12 seared faucets. Anything else we can easily get here? Some reinforced machine casing, and then I think the rest requires all of our chaos stuff. Oh, I guess we can grab the seared drains as well. Wait a second, we're actually not short that much for the chaos fragments. We don't need 16 nickel chloride per 12 tiny chaos fragments. Remember, this only costs 10 millibuckets, so yeah, we don't have to include this in the recipe every time. We should already have enough liquid here batch crafted for, yeah, a lot of chaos. And you know what, this is actually the second time we've had to use our Tinker Smeltery, in 2 episodes actually. Didn't expect this thing to still be used at this point in the game, but here we are. We need 4 ingot casts. Alright, I think this reinforced glass is really the last of the easy things we can get here. Oh, and we're even 4 short, I thought this was 12. Alright, so since we've got a lot more fusion crafting in our future, and I mentioned last episode about possibly upgrading this fusion crafter, I have switched out the quantum entangloporter here with a phantom energy face, and the energy face here will transfer as much power as you throw at it. The other side of this energy face is connected to this induction port. However, we are actually capped on our induction matrix. We're outputting 800k, which is way less than the amount that we produce with this reactor. So yeah, we have to add a couple more induction providers to this multi-block. And just one of those things took us from 800k, or still 800k. Wait, has the fusion crafting stopped? Ah, so instead I actually just hooked up the energy face straight onto the power tap here of our reactor to tap into the full, I guess we're only making 7 million per tick now. I think the cyanite actually is blocking it because it has too much waste product in here. So I noticed that this starlight infuser had stopped briefly, and it's because our grid power is brushing up right against our limit. So we're going to add another dragon egg mill to this. Because we have 2 of these things, it does count as a 91% efficiency loss, which isn't great. But that takes us from 1300 grid power up to 1800 grid power. But it's actually been around an hour since the last clip actually. I've been crafting up all these materials. We just managed to get the 2 alchemical machine frames, which means we can request our next 2 chemical dissolvers, I think. Yep. We are also able to get enough chaotic energy cores to craft our ludicrous energy input hatch. And all we're now missing is 2 more crystal cores. Most of these rock crystals should be big enough for us to craft with by now. Oh yeah, we really also should look into some automation interfaces for all of these recipes. I mean, look at all this. We have to manually craft all this crystalline. I mean, at least we can shift click this, right? Alright, and 2 more rock crystals is going to let us craft our 2 crystal cores. And our 2 chemical dissolvers have just also finished crafting, which should be our quest. Aha, nice. Alright, so where do we want to put this multi-block? Oh, and the preview isn't going to be kind to us either. Oh, I'm going to enjoy this. First time, are you ready? Is this it? Oh, missing structure. No! Ah, we're missing the ingot casts here. I forgot I had these things. Hey, there we go. Awesome, we got our chemical caster. Okay, so we'll want to give this thing some power. And we also have to power these mechanism heat inputs. So we can run some of this thermodynamic conductor wire, which should start to heat all of the inputs. In fact, let's just increase this a little bit more. Let's do 1000 RF per tick. Alright, so what is the reason we actually built this thing? I think it's to unlock these cores. However, there's a few quests gating this. First one is to grab the chemical from rainbow tablets, which is expensive, but yeah, let's do it. The next quest is actually for crystalline, which is another very expensive dissolver recipe here. Oh, and we have to dissolve this one twice to get the pure barium. And we also have to give up some of our Wirren cores to give some of this Han purple. Oh, at least it gives us them back. And in fact, it gives us a lot more back. And yeah, now this opens up this corrupted core quest. Alright, I'm not actually familiar with any of these. I mean, apart from the chaotic cores. Let's get a couple of chaotic cores. Can we craft 2? We can craft 2, nice. Okay, let's start with the barium ingots here, which we have to use our chemical caster for. And the barium we just got from the Han purple, which came from the Wirren cores. So hopefully this thing is up to temperature by now. We should just be able to put this in the input. It's still not the right temperature. Okay, let's increase the RF on this. Let's give it like 6000 RF. Oh, now we're going. Now we're going. Nice. And we get 4 barium for every stack of barium we put in. And we need how many per core? 8 per core. Okay, so we have to melt a little bit more wyvern cores for this. Okay, so we got our ingots, we got our chaotic cores. We now have to make some of this compound and some kaolinite, which comes from draconic or wyvern cores. We should have some extra of this in the system. And this one comes from refined corallium. Okay, that's not too bad then. Yeah, we already had both of these compounds here. And our chaotic cores are finished crafting, which means we can craft our next corrupted cores. And I guess we'll make 2 of these things. I'm pretty sure we're going to use them anyway. Make sure to grab our 6 chaotic cores from this. So now we have to cast some chromium. This is going to give us chromium ingots, which later on we have seeds for. But then we have to alloy smelt that with the barium ingots. I think we'll have to make up some more of those. These are the same ingots we used in the corrupted cores. And this gives us chromium barium. And the chromium barium we're going to use to create a chemical combiner, the liquifier, and also the electrolyzer. I think is what these 3 quests are here. And to make things a little bit easier, I've hooked up an input chest here, just so that we could batch craft like with a ton of different chemicals. Alright, there's our chromium. And we got 16 of each to start off with, which is, oh, this is only going to give us 4 ingots. It's 4 in the inputs here. But this is just a simple alloy smelter recipe. Okay, next up is the electrolyzer. This really doesn't look too bad though. We need a water electrolyzer. Okay, this is going to take some crafting. Most of the stuff we should have recipes for though. The biggest expense again I think is going to be our alchemical machine frame. So I'm not really sure how many hours I've been staring at this crafting screen, but it's a lot. And this is basically what the game is at this point. There's 4 more oxygen tanks. I think we were just waiting on some more heavy plating. And we have our water electrolyzer. And with the Galacticraft electrolyzer, we can create our technically optional alchemistry electrolyzer. So yeah, I didn't realise that this was actually optional, but I mean, it's going to help us in the long term anyway. I think we need this for chlorine, which is used in something. So for us to progress anymore, we have to do these 2 ingots down here. And the first quest is easy. We can melt down some end steel for antimony here. The next one though is not quite so easy. So this is going to involve some Thaumcraft again. And the strontium carbonate only comes from these impetus crystals, or the jewels, or the cells, which are my favourite things in the game. And yeah, all the way down at the bottom of this crafting rabbit hole is the impetus crystal. Well, this is not the bottom, but you know what I mean. We need to make some more impetus crystals, which takes more of these pearl charges. Some more otherworldly tears, which is very, very nested crafting here. At least now the void metal and the magical leather we have on passive. The witch's stitching though does take a little while in the spinning wheel. But we will need a lot of primordial pearl charges. Let's see how many tool poppets we can get. I wonder if by now we can craft like 32 of these things. I mean, this is still way expensive. What are we missing? Mana powder? Let's just increase our buffer here on mana powder. And we'll batch up some more witch's stitching. So right now we have I think over 12 pearl charges. Let's craft a bunch of impetus and unlock the next quests, and then we'll see how much of this stuff we actually need. And this impetus recycling is not going to be a long-term solution. Apparently, once we get fission up and running, we can much more easily get this compound. And in fact, instead of burning just the impetus crystals, we can infuse it with a little bit of essential, which is basically free for us, and increase the yield by quite a bit. The crystals only give us 64, whereas the jewels here give 96. Okay, some of our impetus is coming through now. There's our strontium. I'm always going to get these names mixed up. Which we have to dissolve once again into regular strontium, which lets us create the first ingot, but the second one here requires flying ointment, which is something we can create. It just takes forever in these distilleries. We may have to look at upgrading our bewitchment setup. Let's badge craft quite a lot of this actually. Okay, we're missing the blood orb. Yeah, I did actually request those tool poppets, so that's also going to take a little while. Man, everything is just backed up here. Alright, so we managed to get enough flying ointment, and I also got these other 2 quests down here. To make the chemical casting process a little bit easier, instead of manually taking from this ME terminal to cast into ingots, we can just easily hook up a ME interface here. This will be connected to our main network, but because we have that storage bus on our subnet there, our main network can actually send the compounds that we need into this interface, which will be casted into ingots, and then we just have to item conduit from the output port here, and back into the interface. And we'll want recipes for arsenic, cadmium, antimony, strontium, chromium, and barium. which now means we can request these alloys, so long as we have the chemical compounds from the dissolver. Alright, progress. I'm learning. Okay, so this opens up our chemical combiner. This thing is definitely not cheap. It does require some of these alloys we just created, the corrupted core we put together, an alchemical machine frame, and another fusion crafting core. Which, even though it's a tiny bit cheaper for us now, it's still not something we could just whip together. And if that's not enough, we also need one more for the Atomizer, and one more for the Liquifier, which means we need a total of 3 fusion crafting cores. So that is a lot of fusion crafting we've got going on here. Let's get to it though. Wow, that was an insane amount of crafting there. That took hours to get these 3 things. So we have the chemical combiner, the atomizer, and the liquefier. So the atomizer here is actually going to be useful to turn our mercury that we're using for the Chaos Shards. Yeah, we get a mercury byproduct, which we can directly turn back into the item mercury, and this we can recycle into the Liquicrafter for the impure mercury iodine. There is still a lot of different compounds we need. And to finish out this episode, I think we're going to work on these 3 gems that we need here. And to unlock these last 3 compounds, we first have to melt bottled hellfire, basic wafers, and mirian. Let's just throw in a bunch of each. And yeah, look at our subnet now. We have we have so many compounds here. Alright, that was 2 of the quests. We are also missing here a demonic will we have to break down. We have a lot backlogged here. Hopefully this is going to be enough for us and for the foreseeable future. Let's melt a couple of stacks of regular demonic will. And that completes our quest. So yeah, now we have to make rubies. But we have to use our chemical combiner and put together strontium carbonate, which is the one from Impetus. This one, and again I'm not going to try and pronounce this, which was from the Hellfire. And the last one is beta carotene, which comes from spider eyes. So we have to give our chemical combiner some more power. Yeah, I think this bar on the left is broken, but it does get power this way. Then we can lock our recipe for rubies, and this is nowhere near enough, but it will unlock the quest again. Then we can mix even more compounds to create our sapphires. This one is a little bit easier to produce. And the last one here is for, I think this is Peridot, which it looks like we're blocked by this one here. And we first have to break methane. Then we combine the methane with some carbon and hydrogen, gives us ethane, and then same again for propane, same again for butane, and I think there's one more after this. There's a few more after this. We basically just keep mixing with carbon and hydrogen. Oh yeah, there's actually 5 different versions here. And once we get all the way down to hexane, we get our quest. This thing is mighty slow. We're definitely going to want to automate this. We combine the hexane with some magnesium, and we have the last of our gems, the peridot. Which now means that we're about 1/3 of the way through alchemistry. There's still a little bit to go over here, which we'll continue with next episode, but I think this is where we're going to wrap up today. Throughout the episode, I've also been requesting more of our CPUs, so I got some of them upgraded already. This one has a 1024 crafting storage on it, and I think the one at the back there does as well. All of the 1Ks though have been removed. It was time for those things to go. So yeah, that's going to do us for today. We're going to come back tomorrow and try to automate all of these machines. We can't always just batch craft with these things, right? And we'll also have to figure out what we want to do with these Liquicrafters as well. In terms of this first fluid, But anyways, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow for some more Divine Journey 2.